right? So we have to realize that this is a, um, we are these people. We're one and the same. It's like when somebody says, "Well, I'm a Moor. I'm not an Israelite." It's like, Moor is a catch-all phrase for a lot of people throughout the story of mankind, which just basically means, black. That's why there's a such thing as black or Moor. So it depends on who you're talking to. See, that's why it's cultural. Like I was saying earlier, culturally speaking, who are we talking about? Who? When we say somebody said that's a Moor, what culture are you talking about said that's a Moor? Like, are they talking about a Moroccan? Are they talking about somebody from West Africa? Are you talking about a Carthaginian, somebody who's left over from being a Carthaginian? Like some people are left over from being Carthaginians, so they are people that were already over Spain, a Spaniard, which is what the Moors then. You said we think of it as the Moors came and conquered Spain, but you forget that the Carthaginians had a capital in Spain because they already had Spanish land. When the Punic Wars, right? The Phoenician, Canaanite, Israelite blood, right? Kemetic blood, Cushitic blood in there. The Phoenicians who made the alphabet, and one of them translated into Greek for the Greeks to be able to have a written language as well too, right? These are things that we know for a fact happen. So when we talk about these things, we have to realize real quick that we're having a lot of conversation that's outside, once again, of ourselves. We're having a conversation about things that are not Yashra, or not Ashanti, or not Asante, or not Shwe, or not Igbo, or not Punic, or not Carthaginian. See, a Moor is somebody that at one point was known as a Carthaginian. So are you talking about a Carthaginian Moor? Are you talking about somebody like, watch this, there are also Israelites that got away from being in the way. So just because somebody was an Israelite by blood did not mean that they were an Israelite by faith. That's why not all Israel is Israel. Romans chapter 9, verse 6. But in Romans chapter 9, it says we had to get back to ourselves because we need to be the teachers. So now in Romans chapter 10, verse 1, Paul says, it's still my prayer that Israel would be saved. Right? That, like, there's a culture attached to it. We're not looking for the culture, but there's a culture attached. Right? So if I want true freedom, then I have to be able to realize the freedom and where it comes from. And if I want true freedom, then I have to realize the domain in which it comes from. If I'm speaking, so watch this. If I'm speaking, see something, here's something that's freeing. And thank you, Sister Rhonda. See, knowledge about things, intimacy about things causes you to want to be free to learn other things. May I say that again? Because that's a mouthful when left in the hands of the wrong person, right? Knowledge about something, right, causes you want to be free to learn about that thing. And thank you for those that are coming back on. How you doing? I'm on YouTube. Sorry, we had an issue with the signal. Right. So if I become knowledgeable about a thing, then I'm free to go and learn about that thing. Right. So if I learn that the English language is 40% French, guess what I'm going to do? Even if I don't become fluent, I'm going to learn le français, not just français, not parlez-vous français, not do you speak French. I'm going to learn le français because in France, they say it's the French. So if I want to learn about the people from Normandy in French, I'm going to learn the French because in every language I learn, everything I'm speaking, I have some holdovers. But if I want to learn French, then that frees me up because if I have that knowledge, then it also frees me to say, but where did they get it from? Oh, well, they got messed over and conquered too. And they started doing a lot of Latin stuff with their Gaulish stuff. So if I learn some of what the Gauls did and I learn some of what the people who are Latin did, then I'll be okay. Wait a minute, though. It's not Latin people because they really weren't Latin people. They were actually conquered by people who spoke Latin because the people who conquered them were Roman. The Romans, like even more sometimes in their own language, they like Greek and Latin. So I need to go find that out. But wait a minute, where did the Romans get Greek and Latin from? Where they got it from, obviously, the people of Greece who upheld their own language and Latin language. Well, then where did they get that from as far as even their alphabet? Well, wait a minute, there was something before called the alphabet or the alphabet. And so I go and read that and I'll learn that. And then I find out that, wait a minute, the alphabet goes back to language that was thousands of years ago. Even if you share our same canon, you have to admit it goes before the flood because we call it Hebrew language, but let's keep it 100. Let's keep it 100. It's only called Hebrew language because the person whose family you came out of spoke it. Oh, hallelujah, hallelujah. Let's be free, just listen. Praise Yah. Right? How you doing, Henry? right? How you doing, Minister Moselle, if I didn't say so already? How you doing, Sister Dawn, if I didn't say so already? How you doing, Sister Samaya, if I didn't say so already, right? So I've got to go back now and realize that, wait a minute. So if I, as an Israelite, speak Hebrew, that means that somebody was a father of me. So if I go back, well, Isaac spoke Hebrew, Abraham spoke Hebrew, Terah spoke Hebrew, but let's keep on going back. Let's keep going. How far back does this thing really go? Okay, well, if I go back, Peleg spoke Hebrew. That's when the earth split, right? You call it Pangea. We know who it was, Pelag. So Pelag for us is like your Pangea, because Pelag was a person who was born, and when he was born, they named him after the earth splitting. Who's his father? His father is Avda, or who you call Eber, or Hebrew, or Hebrew, right? So I go, okay, but who was his father? Where did he come from? Well, Hebrew is called a Shemitic language. Why is it called a Shemitic language, right? It's called a Shemitic language. Yeah, and it takes some of that cuneiform stuff like that too. I'm sorry, I missed what you said. But see, the Shemitic language, so the alphabet even goes all the way back to the time of Shem. Well, what happens during Shem's lifetime? You also have somebody named Nimrod. Nimrod is trying to do what? Trying to make sure that um, he is basically taking over whatever. And his father, Cush. That's why you can't just do everybody believes what you believe. His father named Cush. What did his father do? His father named Cush started a movement that led people to start thinking, hey, we should start trying to build a tower, and we should try to get up to the heavens. It will become the Most High. And they got defeated when their languages were split. But when their languages were divided, was our language divided? You see, now I got freedom to look around correctly. I have freedom to make my mental map look like what it's supposed to. Are you following me, right? Like there's a map that I'm free to go around and search correctly, because I actually am free, because I got a dominion that allows me to be free. See, so now I can go back and say, well, if I speak a Shemitic language, then what was the language Shem? Who taught Shem how to speak? Would that not be Na'ah? Would that not be Na'ah, or who you call Noah? Right? I'm free now to have some mindset things happen. See, so if Noah spoke it, then who spoke it before him? Well, his father was Lamech. And who was his father? His father was Melchizedek. I'm sorry, not Melchizedek. Methuselah, excuse me. And his father and Methuselah's father was who? Was Enoch. So if I speak properly, then I speak the language that Enoch spoke. And Enoch, when you learn about Enoch, not just in the 66 books, but as you learn about Enoch, Enoch is somebody who got to a position to where he was learning about the Most High so much that the whole earth at one point, actually all the kings and priests started listening to what Enoch had to say and started teaching it around the whole earth, which means that everybody in the earth at some point, if we teach this right, is going to at least hear it if we get the right interpretation. How you doing, Sister Round? I see you. You hear what I'm saying? At some point, it's possible, even if everybody won't follow it, that it can go to and reach the whole world. But I got to give the proper interpretation. But I keep on going. If I go back to Enoch's fathers and all that stuff, eventually I get to Seth. And then when I get to Seth, then that only means I got one more person left as far as where we come from specifically, and that's Adam. So if I want to speak the language that Adam spoke when he walked with the Holy Spirit in the cool of the day, that's what that means when it says he walked with him in the cool of the day. The word cool there, it's a trick, right? They don't tell you your culture. It's a trick. The word cool there just refers to Havak, spirit. The Holy Spirit walked with Adam. That's what it's saying. So if I want to have the same conversation on the same level, then I should probably learn the language that they spoke. By the way, if the Holy Spirit was there when the earth was founded and the Most High was speaking a language, although we know there's heavenly languages and stuff too, right? But if he was speaking a specific language when he made the earth, and the Holy Spirit speaks that same language to Adam, then are we not speaking the language of the Most High when we speak Hebrew or Avda, since it was never divided? It didn't become divided till we became scattered. You said, did Noah really build an ark that contained all the animals of the world? That's what I have faith in. That's what I believe in. And it didn't say he contained all the animals of the world. He said it was two of each kind. Look up the difference between kind and what you call species. By the way, look up what species are anyways, because you know there's 6 types of evolution. The 6th type of evolution basically just says that if animals have sexual relations with each other, they will have offspring, right? And sometimes offspring can look different. And that's why some animals can even get with other animals, and they can create an animal that can't necessarily give birth anymore, but they're close enough that they can actually, give birth to the same thing because they're related enough through that. So there's 6 different types of evolution. Now, if you're dealing with just the 5th type of evolution, have a Darwinistic mindset, then that disqualifies a lot of stuff, because now we got to get into race, because animals were divided by race. That's why now a lot of human beings that want to be animals divide themselves by race, because you're very Linnaean in nature and things like that. I don't know where the ark is. More than likely, the ark probably would have been taken apart and used for parts to be able to rebuild, but I'm not sure. In all honesty, you said wasn't the first language Aramaic? People do that all the time. The Bible was written in Aramaic. That comes from the fact that Aramaic people use the same characters, the same letters that Israelites did. So if you read something that Israelites read from, well, Aramaic people read the same characters. So if you're not careful, you'll fall for that. We could say in a sense, then, isn't the Bible not Mesopotamian? Is it not this? Is it not that? But see, the closer you get back to the story of mankind, you got to remember there's less language. There's less people. There's less confusion. There's less time that we've had to be able to, make this what we want it to be. So you said humans that want to be animals. What do you mean by that? Well, if you look at evolution, right, as far as the 5th type of evolution, most people, not all, but most people, when they deal with evolution, they're dealing with only one type of evolution, and they're usually going to be talking about animals turned into humans at some point, and animals coming from rocks, and rocks coming from blah blah blah, or I'm sorry, the slime off of rocks, and then blah 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 blah, right? And the evolution, but then they don't go into the other, because then we have to go into the other types of evolution, as far as what do they say that how did hydrogen turn into other elements and things like that, if they have to all evolve. But as far as if we're talking about the 5th type of evolution, most people are into Darwinism. So you have to comprehend that Darwinism is based off of race. A lot of people don't want to believe that, but I can just show that to you. If you read his book, you'll find a whole bunch of race. This animal's race, this animal's race, this animal's race. And then he'll say, like, when he talks about by colonial or white construct, he'll say white people. He's saying he'll call them people, but then go back to calling everybody a race, right? But I could just show you on the cover. If you were to get the cover of his book, it's not that hard to even deal with, right? The cover of his book, so the title of his book, in essence, how you doing, Sister Irena? The title of Darwin's book is simply called The Origin of Species. It really should say The Theory of Evolution, but they don't show that one to you guys anymore. But The Origin of Species by Natural Selection, or the Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. And right, so literally the book is written about natural selection, and how basically people who are up high in races are going to have to make sure that they struggle to survive like everybody else does, but it's worth struggling, right? Now you got to realize that. Now if you look on the bottom of the book, right after it says the title, or bottom of the cover rather, it has something in parentheses. When you read that, it says it's backed up by royalty. It's backed up by royalty. It's backed up by people who are geologists. So we got to see what these scientists are doing. And then it also says it's backed up by Linnaean, or he's Linnaean. This is a Linnaean doctrine. So Carl Linnaeus, now you got to figure out who that is. And it was written in 1859, same time during like Manifest Destiny, White Man's Burden, Lost Cause, Rhetoric's going to come up pretty soon. Around that time, we've already got the Doctrine of Discovery. All that stuff is in there. Now Charles Darwin, you throw him in there too. So, but if you look up now Carl Linnaeus is the first person to stop saying that races are just between animals. Because remember, race is competition. So when they say that there's a race going on, they're saying there's competition between animals. But now you become what? A human race with different races, sub-races inside of your humanity. So you're a human because you have a certain level of intelligence, but there's still a competition. So now these different races are there. So only one race at the end, there can only be one. That's the mindset of Linnaean doctrine. That's the mindset of Darwinism, is that there can only be one. Remember, what's the title of his book? The Origin of Species. By means of natural selection, nature has selected somebody. And how is nature selected? Or the favored races, only certain races will be favored because of who they came from or what animals they came out of in the struggle for life. All of us going to struggle, but only one race shall remain. So when I say that Darwinism is dealing with you becoming like an animal or racing like an animal or competing against each other like an animal, you have to realize that's there, right? That's where that came from. But he got that from Carl Linnaeus. Now, when we get into the genetics or you know what sorry. Yeah, when we get into I'm sorry, what am I trying to say? Not genetics, but ah, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm having a moment. Not when we get into genetics, but when we get into eugenics. There we go. When we get into eugenics, now we have to realize that Carl Linnaeus, I'm sorry, not Carl Linnaeus, Charles Darwin has a cousin. Thank you, Sister Bree. Yeah, right. Carl Linnaeus has a cousin, right? I'm sorry. Gosh, let me get my stuff together. Charles Darwin has a cousin. He married his own cousin too, right? And he has an uncle who's the father of the cousin he married and the cousin who's going to come up with eugenics. His father or his father-in-law slash his uncle was somebody who hated life, hated anything about belief in the Most High, and was a staunch advocate of what we would now call racism, right? And so Charles Darwin actually went to school to be a preacher, believe it or not. So you have a preacher trying to teach you about racism and how white people are best. That's why some people say sometimes racism is looked at as like a whole theology within itself, right? Not making that up, right? But you have Charles, you have now Charles Darwin's cousin who's going to come up with eugenics. He looks at what his cousin has done. He sees how his cousin has been supported, how his narrative has been supported by everybody, including the Roman Catholic Church. And he goes, wow, you know what? I look up to him. And he writes a book about eugenics. So that family presented you basically racism through the prism of what? Darwinism, which is what? Supposed to be what a lot of people, which is only one of six. Once again, I got to admit to you, it's only one of six ways of looking at evolution. But it's basically evolution. Evolution was something brought out to be able to make sure that you separate the people who deserve to survive from the people who don't, which is why now it's okay. So when is this written again? 1859? Is this not right in the middle of seeing something that's about to happen to the United States Corporation? And by the way, the father of eugenics, Darwin's cousin, becomes the father ultimately of your IQ test, because somebody who believed in eugenics and therefore believed in Darwinism saw what they were doing in France. That's why I said even learn about the French culture, right? He sees in France that the people in Paris don't like the country bumpkins, and so they create a test, an IQ test, an intellectual quotient, right? That's how much information, but really you think it's how much information? It's whose information. So they create this IQ test in France to make sure that those who they don't want to be in certain places in France, or those who they don't want to have as much prosperity, or those who don't want to be considered on the same level as themselves, they create a whole IQ test to make sure that if they don't speak the same, or if they don't do the same things, or if they don't live the same way, they can't get the same things. And a guy in the northeast part of the United States of America sees that, goes all the way over to France, studies it, loves it, brings it back, reworks it, and then sends it to all the states in the United States of America and says, this is what we need to do to make sure we separate the people that we want to have from the people who we don't want to have. They just won't have the same information, the same intelligence. They won't have the domain that allows them to be free. So if they're going to live in the domain we're going to create, even the United States Corporation, they're going to have what? They're going to have a domain that we say what they're free in or not, that we say what allows them. Even their HBCUs will have a whole bunch of white people that start them and the white people that are in there. You're literally saying this is a historically black college or university started by somebody else. They'll still make sure that their colleges are accredited. And you think that accredited, see, SOC University will never be accredited. You know why? Because the best universities on the planet are always non-accredited. Harvard is not accredited. If they get accredited, they have to bring their teaching down and give you less information, because now whatever they give is control. Remember, if I control your information, I can't serve you. If I serve you, I can't control your information. I can't control what I serve. I can't serve what I control. All we're doing is giving contextual facts. We don't give context without facts and facts without context, right? If you go to Oxford is not accredited. That's why it's one of the best institutions, supposedly, right? By Western standards, right? If you go to Berkeley, I'm pretty sure Berkeley is non-accredited. Why? Because if they were to ever get accredited, they couldn't teach you on the level that they want to teach you. But you look for the accredited in your mind, thinking that if I don't go to an accredited, but all accreditation is people that get some. It basically is bringing people to a mean. If you're going to get accredited, there's an average, and they do what's average. And what's average in America? Average in America is having as little intelligence, information as possible. Right. And exactly. And that's really what it boils down to, even deeper, right? I don't even go to that level normally, but you're absolutely right. If you're going to be a private institution, you can't be accredited. If I'm private, then I have to have some private information that the public is not necessarily, the public can get, but they have to, say what they have to be, I, in a sense, get to accredit them. If I'm a private institution, how you doing, set apart? If I'm a private institution, if I'm a private person, if I'm a private community, then I get to say what you get to bring into my community or not. But if I'm public, then I have to do what the public does, right? Private is as private does, public is as public does. Now, public and private can meet in certain places, but see, one has to reign supreme. So if I go to the store and I buy some food, I can't say, hey, I'm a private citizen, right? I can't say to them, hey, I'm a private citizen. So since I'm a private citizen, I can't do that. I can't be like, oh, I'm a private citizen, so I don't pay taxes here. No, if I go into a public place, into their storage, because that's what a store is, a place where you store things, right? So if I go into their storage looking for something, they get to say, hey, we have this, and this is what we asked for. We got to tax you because of boom, 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 right? So I can't say, well, right, because it's a public institution. Right. But if you come to me in private and you want to get something, I don't have to tax you. I can just tell you, this is what it cost me for this is what it cost me for this is what it cost me for this. And I might even bless you. I might even say, hey, but you don't even have to pay for this, blah, blah. I can make those decisions because I'm not controlled by anybody. Right. If you walk out the store with something, they have the right to say you stole it. Not just because you stole it from them and they're upset with you. And thank you for the love. Appreciate it. Not because you stole it from them. When you stole it from the people that own them. So the people that own them now have to say, well, look, they took this from you because I can't give you the revenue that's there, and therefore I'm missing on revenue myself. So massa, send the policy, the people who make sure that they take care of your policy. You call them police. Send the people who take care of the policy. Poli means people, poll means opinions. So the people who you control their opinions and the people you put in place of the policy, and you even control my opinion about the person who might be hungry about the bread, and that's not really going to stop me. But you know what? We'll stop everything. Let's arrest that dude for a loaf of bread, and let's put him in prison for 6 months, and let's make sure he learns his lesson and pays back his debt to society, and he'll be a slave, and he'll have already paid back his debt to society after 2-3 days, but he'll stay in prison for 6 months because now another part of the corporation, who are a corporation within themselves called prison, also who controls what? How many people go to jail because they sign contracts with the state saying, hey, if you're going to have your citizens come into our private sector, right? We are a private corporation, but we control you as the public. So therefore we have things in place like even quotas where you have to make sure that 98% of our prisons are full, whereas you got to pay more taxes. So now we quick to make sure that we put them in prison and make sure that we use that social security number, which by the way is illegal to use as a form of identification, but we're going to keep doing it. Why? Because you don't know how to get into a place to where you have a dominion of freedom. Everything you're doing is attached to somebody else's dominion, somebody else's domain. How you doing, Sister Judith? And the more stuff that's attached to somebody else's domain, hear me and hear me well, the more stuff that's attached to somebody's domain, the less free you are. There's only one domain that says that I want you to be a king like I'm a king. I want you to be a queen like I'm a king. I want you to be a royalty like I'm royal. There's only one domain that exists that does that. And thanks for being part of the community, Jenny. Appreciate it, right? There's only one domain that says you can be a king as I'm a king. You can come back to life like I came back to life. You can be protected by law like I'm protected by law. See, you guys don't like law. And you guys try to call people who believe what I believe, you try to call us legalists. But not everything that's lawful is legal. Not everything that's legal is lawful. Law doesn't give rights. Law protects rights. The reason you don't know what I'm talking about is because you don't think you have right. You really like you want rights, but you don't think somebody's supposed to protect it. That's why you need to become a people, a community. A community protects each other's rights. There cannot be any freedom without a domain where a bunch of people are causing you to be free. If you just on an island by yourself, it's going to be difficult to take care of stuff. If my sister lives 7 states away and I want to make sure that I can take care of her, right? Like this happened to me recently, right? My family, we had an issue, happened in the middle of the night. We had a blood family member that needed something. They're not even part of the SOC community, but they're part of our family, right? And we called in an area in the middle of the night and said, hey, we need help. And because we're a community and because we've visited these people as well, we've met these people, not just once, but sometimes twice, sometimes a few times. We talk to each other on the phone. Even if we don't live with each other as of yet or close to each other as of yet, we have a connection that made us go, hey, like hey, I don't know. It's late at night. I don't know if they'll even get up. And some of them were calling family members. Oh, I can't do it. I mean, we're trying to help this and that. Some of them literally got up and got on a bus in the middle of the night in a place that ain't necessarily the greatest place to be in the middle of the night because they were looking for family that they hadn't even met, but because they had a love for us and we had a love for them, right? And if that's your way of saying hello, Clary, how you doing? But right, see, look at that, and see, it affected my family to the point to where like that person knows. I don't even and well, I won't get into detail, but that person at least knows that, hey, man, at a moment's notice, these people are part of something to where they'll literally look for somebody they haven't known, never met, right? What does that do to somebody to realize, like, wait a minute, that's love operating on a whole nother level. You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like that for me made me be like, I got to get on my game even more, right? Like I'm on my grind, I'm in lion mode, but man, when I saw that, ooh, you know what I'm saying? Like I gotta give him more now. Yeah, that's protection. That's law. We have a law that governs us, a law that says love them. Even if you don't know them, love them. That's law. See, people don't look at that as law. That's law. Love is an action. Achaba is the action of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit coming together. That was what happened there. Stuff like that. Stuff that people don't even know. And I'm not giving names because they don't want any credit and stuff like that. But see, that's love. That's what causes me to go, ooh, we need to sow more into that person. Ooh, we need to make sure that they're aware of this, that, the third. Ooh, we need to make sure that when's the last time that you heard from, like, then it makes me start looking at other people. Hey, when's the last time I heard from so-and-so? I start scrolling through my texts because now I realize that when I sow into others, they sow back into me. And when they sow back into me, I got to sow back into somebody else. It can't stay stagnant. That's not what current does. Currency, it flows, right? Currency, it flows. I can't have currency flow on one end and it be stagnant. It's got to flow throughout the whole thing, right? It's got to continue the flow. You said when you said earlier about investing in business to provide for others. Yeah, right? Like we got to figure out, once you figure out what your business is, then you got to start see, some people go, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want help. You're going to have to get out of that because you're going to have to tell people where it is because see, the river connects to the streams connect to, you see what I'm saying, right? The ocean connects to the river or the river connects to the ocean, whatever, there's a flow, right? Rain comes down from the heavens to make sure that it can continue to go. But then when it comes down from the heavens, it evaporates back into the heavens, right? You have to have a flow. Currency cannot be stagnant. And if you're somebody out there that won't even say, this is what I do, then how can I support? And thank you for the love again. Appreciate it, right? So freedom looks like a domain, and but a bunch of people want you to be free. I'm not just coming on here every rising to invest in people that invest in me. There's a lot of people on here that don't want to listen to a daggone word I have to say, or once I finish speaking on something, they ain't gonna say nothing again. Or they might come one time and never be back on here. But I'm giving out. And when I give out, it's only a matter of time. You got to get something back. You got to present something for free. Some people don't present anything because they're like, well, ain't nobody paying me for it. Present something long enough that somebody says, I can't do anything without this. This product is great. What you give, your gift, what you give, what you operated, man, this thing is amazing. Yeah, you got faith in the principle, but we don't work it. Exactly, right? Like you got to get to a place to where this product stands out. This product is always moving. This product is always helping me. This product blesses me. This product protects me. This product helps me to feel younger. This product allows me to be able to speak up on things. They've linked up with something I'm doing in my area. Wow, they'll come by and visit. Well, wait a minute. There's a bunch of people that will visit that believe in the same thing that I do. Start showing up and see what happens in your life. Unless I get the payment that I want, that's where a lot of people miss it. Unless I get what I want out of this, then that means you're being stagnant. You're stopping the flow, right? Whether you like it or not, Bill Gates, he saw a product that somebody made, he bought it, and then he started presenting it to people. He bought into it, but then he started presenting it to people. And somebody saw the value in it, and then he got paid, and now he gets paid for the rest of his life. Jeff Bezos was a librarian, right? Saw the value in something as far as the internet, started presenting it to you in a way that you didn't see before, and then now he's gotten to a place to where he'll send you stuff sometimes with no shipping fee, right? Because if he sends you enough stuff, the shipping fee don't even matter. And now he has you in a place where a lot of y'all are like, I can't even exist without Amazon. So I can't even send or buy or do anything unless they do it for me, right? So now you get in a position where you're like, I'll pay into Amazon $25. And then not only that, wait a minute, they'll show me movies too, and they'll give my food. Well, I was gonna say make my food technically, right? If you're dealing with Whole Foods, but they'll make my food. Now some of y'all, they'll give me a job that's better than everybody else. I can get a $25 an hour job, right? Well, I guess I'll break my back for it. I'll do something for it. But wait a minute, they'll give me housing, right? People get controlled really easily, but real talk, I can't be mad at the principle. Right, I can get mad at the result or what they're trying to do with it, but I can't get mad at the principle, which is let me present something to you enough that you'll sow into. But what if instead of sowing into somebody else's domain, you sowed into each other? What if your goal to be free was not how much money you made, but how much land you had? What if your goal to be free was not, hey, I got to make sure that I look, sexy by somebody else's context, but I look sexy because I'm a wife? Yeah, I've definitely done some stuff in warehouses. Ask my hernia situation that I had about that, right? Like, but so you gotta come to a place to where your definition of success is different. See, a success, in order to be success, there's another word that goes with it. In order to be a success, you have to have a successor. Did you get that? If you don't have anything to leave for these babies, you ain't a success yet. Matter of fact, if you don't have anything to leave for these babies, your children's children, you're not a success yet. You have to have a successor, right? If I teach correctly, somebody's going to teach better than I do one day because they're going to build on what I did, but they're going to surpass me at some point, whether it be in life or afterlife, prayerfully in life, so I can be able to see it and praise Yah for it. But in order to be a success, you have to have a successor. You ain't got no will, but you talking about you a success. So then what happens when you die is somebody got to pay all your bills. Somebody has to sell the house that they don't want to sell because you didn't make sure that you set up things for successors. So you can't say you're a success. Right? These are things that you have to be into. Matter of fact, I want to at some point be able to say I can take care of my children's children's children. Because if I can take care of my great grandchildren, then it means my grandchildren are gonna be set. If I can leave this earth knowing that 3 generations down the road they should be fine, and I got principles, and the videos are not just for y'all, right? The books and everything are not just for y'all. The products, the getting people to do business, and my wife's business, and giving medicine and teaching and setting up SOC University. At some point, that's gonna be for my babies and my grandbabies, right? They're gonna be the teachers. And so they got a whole bunch of stuff from Pop already out here. They got a bunch of stuff from Yah, right? yeah, but also yeah, yeah, if you know to comprehend what I'm saying. But they got a bunch of stuff from Pop Pop that says their grandfather that says what? My grandfather left these principles in place. And these principles are there to make sure that they are strong. And the same way that somebody's listening to me today, maybe 80 years down the road, somebody will hear this same discussion, or they'll see a transcript, or they'll hear somebody and be like, man, you know what? I'm so thankful. You might not know this, but I used to listen to your grandfather. I was only a little baby running around, but I used to listen to some of the principles and stuff. My mother, my grandmother was listening to them. My father was listening to, my grandfather was listening to him, and he was saying these things. And I just want to tell you that you guys are a blessing to me. Your grandfather was a blessing to my life, right? And so that baby that hears that, my grandbaby that hears that's going to say, right? My grandbaby that hears that is going to say, okay, like I I'm encouraged by that. Maybe I should look at my bloodline. Maybe I should accept my father and my grandfather more because they are me and I'm them. They are in me and I'm in them. Just like I'm the Yeshua says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. I am in him and he is in me. I am the Aleph Bait, or the alphabet, or I'm sorry, it's the Aleph Bait, which now you know is the alphabet when they change it up, right? But they hear something and they say, you know what? So I encourage my son to be like his father and to be better than his father. I encourage my spiritual children to be like their father and be better. I encourage anybody who is going to learn from me to be greater than I am, right? Just like I'm trying to be greater than those that came before me, right? I'm trying to become greater than my father was. My father, great work ethic. That means that I got to do something on, and I got years and years and years to go. He was working 2.5 jobs, and then again went to 2 jobs. So he's been working 2 jobs at least. I mean, I got to say since 1980, somewhere in there, maybe 1983. By the time I was born in 1982, he was already working 2 jobs, and 2 major jobs, federal government job and a state job, right? We weren't the richest in the world because we had a mother that was, my mother was going through multiple sclerosis. But at the end of the day, there wasn't any need that wasn't met. Even if I wanted some more wants, he made sure that he did what he's supposed to do as my father, right? And exactly, so as a double portion, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna be twice as great. It means I'm gonna give you twice as much helpings, right? He gave me as much as he could, and he gave me everything, and he still gives a lot when he can, right? But he doesn't have to anymore. Now it's time for me to give back. Now it's time for me to make his name great. Now it's time for me to make his principles great. Now it's time for him to look at my work ethic and say, ooh, even though I don't hear from my son as much as I like, I know it's because he out there doing what I did, right? And he's doing it not just for somebody else, to doing it for the federal government to do it, but he's doing it for our people. Respect. He can look at that and say that, because that's what his son is here for, is to make sure that he takes what his father did and takes it to another level, right? That's why, sisters, if I can help, sometimes, especially when you have a husband that's really in his work, some of them mistake it to put it all in their job. When you have a husband that's really always working and you like, I don't really need all this, I just want you and blah, blah, I want you to comprehend. Sometimes he's doing that because it's in him, the work ethic. Right. But the goal for us is to try and get him to see the work ethic should go towards the work of the family first, the work of something that supports the family past the job. And then if he needs a job, the job just only supports what the Most High has for y'all. But he has it in him. If you got a man with a work ethic, the work ethic is not the problem. The work ethic is the problem is we need to focus the work ethic. Remember Saul before he became Paul. Right, Saval before he became Paval, or some of you say Saul before he became Paul, or Sawal before he became Pawal, whatever, right? But Saval before he became Paval, Saul before he became Paul, he becomes somebody, or he was somebody rather, who was dealing with. He was somebody who basically had a great work ethic, but it was perverted. Right, he had a great work ethic, but it was perverted. It was causing him to kill people. He was taking people's lives. But when he became Paval, when he actually met the Most High, when he actually learned what was going on correctly, when he had the right comprehension and the right thought process, then he was able to start working this thing correctly, right? But there had to be a mindset change, right? And so we need that mindset change today. So freedom is a place of dominion where people who are free can live. But you have to have a place. You have to have a society set up. for these free people to live inside of. That being said, it is Shabbat, right? Shabbat Shalom. It's Shabbat Shalom by the Gregorian calendar, by the Israelite calendar. We actually have Shabbat Shalom again tonight, or really, however you want to look at it, again, or real one, whichever. But you have it again tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern New York time as well, or sundown, wherever you are going into tomorrow. So we say Shabbat Shalom. We'll say Shabbat Shalom to you again later today. We'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. Sundays, we normally go for a long time. We might not go as long tomorrow, simply because we're going to be outside somewhere, more than likely. And so we'll see how long the devices last tomorrow. But I thank you guys for being on. I appreciate you. If you have questions, comments, or concerns about, or want to get in touch with us about anything, if you're on YouTube, always look in the description with the videos. If you're coming from some other platform, feel free to look in the description with the video to be able to get any way to get in contact with us, including even leaving us your info so we can try and get back to you at some point. For everybody else, we're about to do our shout outs on TikTok. So just hang around a little bit after this ending. So as always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we're always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Thank you to everybody for being on today. We appreciate your presence. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful and grateful to everybody for being on today. So we appreciate you. We honor you. Continue to keep my family in prayer as we're trying to get some stuff together. It's been a little weird, some things going on, but we appreciate you. And we know that God's been is stronger than all these things. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying what's been happening here. February, we've said this a few times, but let's just make sure again, February 17th, we are, in fact, so we've been saying tentatively, so you guys can get ready for it. February 17th, we will be doing a fast. February 17th through the 23rd. On the 23rd is when we're going to start removing the leaven from our home. So on the 23rd, that evening, we'll do the same thing that we did last time. We did a week. This time it'll be a whole week, 7 days. Last time we only did 5 days. We're going to do intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting, where turn your plate down from sunup to sundown, unless you obviously are some kind of medication, or it's hard for you, or you're so addicted to sugar. But we're giving you some time to be able to say, hey, I got some time now to make sure that I can be ready for the fasting. Okay, so February 17th through the 23rd, we hope to be able to have you guys join us. We'll give more information as we get closer, and we'll definitely start having some videos talking about removing the leaven from our home, so that by the time we get to April 5th for Passover, we can be ready to go. But we're grateful and thankful for you guys being on again. We appreciate you, and take care, everybody on YouTube. If you're on TikTok, we're going to get ready to do our shout out. And we thank you guys again for being on with us.